Hi everyone, I'm Sophie Milburn, editor of the MSP Channel Insights portfolio, and today I'm joined by Charlotte from Hyve Managed Hosting. So to start, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, your role, and the company?
Hi, I'm Charlotte Webb, Marketing and Operations Director for Hyve Managed Hosting. I look after all our entities based in the UK, the US, and Europe. We are also opening in Australia later this year, so that's really my big focus at the moment, which is really exciting to cover the APAC region. So my role is about looking after kind of customers, the growth of our business, but also making sure that, the team's running as it should be. As a hosting provider at the moment, the market's massively changing, as we all know, which is why I'm here today. There's lots of kind of volatility in the market. We're really focusing on kind of the growth of AI and the change of kind of like data sovereignty as a managed hosting provider, which is, where we are right now.
Fantastic. Opening in Australia is very exciting. But for those kind of less familiar with you, how would you describe Hyve Managed Hosting position in the market, and what types of customers are you typically working with?
So we work with any business of any size. We're kind of positioned as a alternative to a hyperscaler. Although we offer public cloud services, we really specialize in private cloud, data sovereignty, looking for people who need help and support. So we manage infrastructure for customers to help them grow. Any size. I mean, for us, we really love businesses that are growing, starting from kind of smaller and growing with their business and helping them evolve in their strategic and transformation. Modernization as well is a big part at the moment, but, we deal with sectors both public and private. So, and anyone that needs us, we're here for them, basically.
Fantastic. And like you mentioned, there's so much change happening at the moment. I feel like every time I have a conversation, things are shifting and things are changing, especially when it comes to, the infrastructure space right now. So from your perspective, what are the biggest forces kind of driving that volatility in the market currently?
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing I have learned. So I've been at Hyve in the kind of tech industry for 4 or 5 years. And I've learned that every day it definitely is not the same in the tech industry. And, it's moving. You think you're down one path, especially working in operations. I'm like, right, okay, let's focus on this today. This is our path, this is our strategy, this is our direction. But, something then comes along and completely changes us out of the water. I mean, I think the biggest thing at the moment is AI. You kind of bang on about it, but that kind of hits around the head, and a lot of customers as well. That's a big thing. But sovereignty is the biggest message at the moment we're seeing, especially as we are UK homegrown. So that's where we started back in 2001. So people in Europe, it's a huge message. The kind of the political Europe, US kind of clash. So we're really working to, give our customers insight into how they can be true sovereignty. There's a bit of kind of whitewashing that word, I also come from a marketing background. So I'm kind of on the fence of like, is it actually just a marketing buzzword that's going to go away soon? Right. But, it's people looking for a private cloud solution, right? So people can't have their data shared with other regions, other entities, but also it's that promotion of the option to not go with a hyperscaler. There's so much change and so many buyouts, Of course, we're here to talk about Broadcom and the VMware kind of massive market change. So it's giving people the option to look for better partners that are kind of more aligned to their business.
Yeah, and like you said, with so much change, there does come a lot of challenges. So what would you say maybe some of the main challenges that people are kind of coming across right now when it comes to their virtualization strategy?
So I think it's always got to come down to cost, right? That's always the first conversation with anyone, in the virtualization market or outside the virtualization market. People always want to save money, make sure they've got the right kind of bang for their buck. But now, because of what we've seen with the VMware buyout is that, they suddenly put prices up by like 300% for customers just overnight. So it's giving customers a reassurance, that won't happen to them again if they move to someone else,
Yeah.
because it happens all the time at the moment because of the kind of the demand of everything. Prices are just going through the roof. So I'd say cost is definitely the key driver and the first point of conversation, but people also talk a lot about, performance is also big. It really depends on the customer and kind of what their kind of objectives are, I'd say.
Yeah, and you mentioned the VMware there. So VMware migration has become a major topic in the industry. In practice, what does a typical migration journey actually look like for customers, and where do they maybe tend to underestimate the complexity of that?
Well, I don't think there ever is a typical. I think because every customer is different, and that's the great thing about working with an MSP, right? You're not buying an off-the-shelf solution. You're partnering with someone who's actually going to come in and look at what your individual needs and demands are. Look at your infrastructure estate, and that's a great thing at the moment because of the volatility in the market. Customers are going, okay, this isn't my priority is now looking at what's the best fit for my business rather than just saying, okay, let's lift and shift to a new platform, right? So kind of it's never going to be the same. But what I would say is that people aren't going into this naive. They're being very cautious from what we've seen. They don't want to rush into anything. It's a lot of conversations. I think if you look at the kind of statistics, 80% of people are saying that they want to currently move off VMware, but only not even 20% have yet because of that is great because it's also showing that there's lots of options in the market, but also people's cautiousness to change, but also they're not just changing for the sake of it. They want to modernize. Containers is becoming huge in the market, which is why, one of the reasons why we've partnered with Red Hat OpenShift. But also, one of the biggest challenges customers are facing in moving is the networking piece. So that's the biggest kind of clanger that we have. But we spent a lot of time, about 18 months, looking into all the different options in the market. And we believe that Red Hat offers that enterprise grade networking solution for our customers. And also they don't have to switch to something brand new. You can go VM to VM from the off and then slowly migrate into containerization.
Yeah, and it's just that constant battle, isn't it, of innovating and moving on to the next thing, but also preserving things and staying safe. And I wouldn't even know where to begin making that decision there.
Yeah, and then you've also got as I said before, the sovereignty control piece. People, they moving to a lift and shift to say the public cloud would then, they then lose some control, which is then also a big factor for some customers.
Yeah, and how would you say that the role of managed service providers is evolving in this shift away from maybe traditional virtualization?
Yeah, that's something that we've seen. Yeah, is a really interesting change. So at the well, before it's kind of manage my infrastructure, and now it's like partner with me to transform and evolve my business. DevOps is a huge thing. We've had to grow our DevOps team. People are actually more looking for guidance and support in kind of those kind of they want continuous integration. They don't just want someone to manage their infrastructure. They want someone to really evolve their business and take it to the next level.
Yeah, and beyond that kind of infrastructure change, what tangible business outcomes are customers actually really looking for to achieve that through that transformation?
I think the ability to use AI and not scale out their costs. I think a lot of customers are looking for more of a hybrid approach rather than just having one solution that fits all. And I think they want change for the future, not just looking at the business now. It's like the longer term business strategies.
Yeah, and if we start to look at that future, it's always the most impossible question because things are changing so quickly, like we said at the start. What do you kind of see coming up with this, maybe in the next 12 months? What shifts do you see happening there?
I think the shifts will be the likes of Serenity is growing hugely. So I think a lot of people are going to be switching to models and hopefully using more like homegrown talent. You know, there should be a growth in the smaller market competitors like us. You know, and I think customers are looking more for partnerships with MSPs that are going to help and support grow their business going forward and transform. You know, they want to move away from the likes of a hyperscaler or VMware to people that can help, you know, change their business to be focused for AI and containerization. You know, modernization is now a big piece. I think we went from a market when I joined kind of 5 years ago, whatever it was all about digital transformation. And now
Yeah.
all of a sudden we're seeing, you know, modernization is the big word that everyone's using.
Mhm.
So it's kind of that shift again. But that to me seems actually like quite a small period of time. So I'm kind of like, okay, there's going to be something else next.
Yeah. And it's just it is impossible to see. I feel like it's such a fantastic time to be part of the channel right now. It's definitely never going to get boring. But no, I will not take up any more of your time. But thank you so much for taking part in the interview today.
Thank you.